Hello, welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Taurus sun, first to get deep at any party. And today's mini dose is going to be all about goals and goal settings, particularly, can we have too many goals? Maybe you clicked on this episode because you're thinking, I think I have too many goals. I am busy. I am stressed. I don't know where to focus my attention. Am I just a little bit all over the place? So if you resonate with that, welcome. I've got a lot of stuff for you. And if you don't, I think I still have stuff for you. Okay? So let's all just stay on. Let's all just listen and see what we learn together. So basically, the question here that I'm going to be attempting to answer from my perspective, in my opinion, okay guys, just my opinion, with a little bit of education to back it up, but I'm going to be attempting to answer if you can have too many goals to the point where it feels so overwhelming, we feel so bogged down by everything we're trying to do that it's hard to know where to even start, how to accomplish things, and you're kind of in a constant chronic state of stress about getting the things that you want to do in your life done, or even starting to tackle them in the first place. So we're going to delve a little bit into like where this anxiety and burnout, goal-related burnout, may come from. I'll give some practical little tips on how to get really clear on priorities, how to get specific and understand your own individual approach to goal accomplishment, and hopefully a little bit on how to align goals with your personal values, with your own unique individual makeup and gifts, for a more sustainable, balanced relationship with goal setting that hopefully leads to more genuine progress and feeling like we're not just all racing to some imaginary finish line, because ultimately in life, yeah, the finish line, it is death, and we don't want to feel like every day is just a never-ending to-do list, marching forward until one day we die, and then what was the whole point? Hopefully, we can get to a point where feeling like pursuing your goals is genuinely fulfilling in and of itself, for the most part. So, goals are such a big part of society, of our culture, so much that we even have a holiday dedicated, New Year's. For anybody that celebrates New Year's, this can also be the zodiac New Year's for anybody that likes to align with that, the lunar New Year. But most people, cultures, have something to note the start of a new year, which means fresh goals, reflecting back on everything we accomplished from the year before, and setting this whole new list of things that we want to achieve in our life. And this is great. Like, don't get me wrong, I love New Year's. I love it. I think there is something to the collective energy of people setting goals, of people reflecting, of looking forward to what they can accomplish in the future. I think it's really, really cool. But we can get to a point where we have listed and stacked on top of each other one goal after another: personal goals, work goals, fitness goals, relationship goals. And we are just like so overwhelmed. So, what's going on there? So, I'm going to break down a little bit on like, why might we be so goal oriented? What are we thinking it's going to do for us? So, if you can think, if you're listening now, maybe pull to mind like your top goal of the moment, or one that you've been working towards recently or that you'd like to work towards, and think, what am I hoping I will feel when I accomplish this? What am I hoping it will give me? What do I think my life will look like and feel like that's better than what it looks like and feels like now? Alternatively, you can also think about, what am I trying to avoid with this goal? I can think easily of like fitness goals, which in no way do I want to villainize fitness or health goals. I think that they're great. But sometimes it's like, okay, well, I will love my body when I am this certain weight. So what we're avoiding there is the discomfort of the relationship that we have with our body in this moment, of feeling like it's not enough, that it's not good enough, that we can't love it until we reach this goal, which is not true, but it can feel really, really true. And we can get really caught up in the pressure of achieving that given goal because the stakes are so high. If your love or your appreciation, your satisfaction with yourself is so dependent on what goals you achieve, that is going to be very stressful when you feel like you might be falling short, which is just human nature. Having moments of success and achievement and progress forward and then having steps back, that is just how the growth process goes. So first, starting to get a little bit curious, like, okay, what am I hoping that this goal gives me? Why do I keep stacking all these goals on top of each other? Am I outrunning something? For me, a lot of times it's like, I think that I can do more in a day than I actually can. And it makes me really uncomfortable that I'm not going to be able to do everything that I want. I'm not going to be able to see every single movie that comes out this year and be so on top of it. I'm not going to be able to listen to all of the new music. I am not going to be able to read every book on my to be read list. I don't like that. That makes me uncomfortable. I don't like the limitation of that. So a lot of times I am stacking things on top of each other thinking that one day I'll be able to do all of them and outrun the finite amount of time that I have. So, starting to really think about where those goals are coming from, what the motivation is, it can really start to unravel why we might be feeling burned out. Because if you're working day in and day out on some large goal in the effort of feeling like you're good enough, a setback in that goal, a barrier, maybe a change in direction where you're not even sure if you want to do that anymore, that can feel like a really high level, a high intensity of disappointment or upset or overwhelm, which can just contribute to burnout even quicker, because instead of it just being a setback, it's like devastating because now I feel like shit and I'm even further from feeling good about myself or worthy or good about the amount of productivity I achieved or, what I feel like I'm capable of doing. Because a lot of times when we have a setback or we even just decide to change goals, change direction, it can feel like a failure. Like, okay, I just wasn't strong enough. I wasn't good enough to accomplish that. So let's look at your goal list. Let's look at your New Year's resolutions. And let's see. Are you specific about your goals? Like, honestly. Or is it like, I want to get good at cooking. I want to learn to play the piano. I want to make more friends. Okay. Great goals. Kind of was like outing myself. Like those are some of my goals. But like, what does that mean? Learn to play piano. What does that actually mean? Because yeah, I can technically go right now and sit down at the piano and I can play a song. But I don't feel like I hit my goal because I can't play certain songs or I can't sit down and just read a piece of music easily. So it's really important to start breaking it down, like I just was doing, of like, okay, for me, what does learning to play piano look like? Well, maybe there's a piece of music that once I feel like I can play that with ease, then I feel like I'm a piano player. I know how to play. Or I can sit down and open a moderate level difficulty, like pop song, and play it. Is that what I want to get to? Not to say that that's going to be the end goal and then I stop there, boom, I know how to play piano, period. Don't have to work anymore. Because something like that, that's a lifelong journey. Most goals are lifelong journeys. Unless it's something like a specific role at a specific company or run the Austin Marathon that happens on a certain day, and yes, you can complete that. And we do have some of those goals, and those are good and usually a little bit easier to achieve because they are very specific. But some of our more general goals, that's the ones I think really starts making us feel burnt out, because it just feels like never ending, and we don't even know maybe necessarily what we mean, why we're hoping to achieve that certain goal. So getting specific can be really helpful. And trust me, I never thought I would say that because I don't like being specific. I don't like having to do the SMART goals, which is like, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time, whatever that acronym is. We have to do that sometimes in school for counseling, stuff like that. And I hated it. I like to leave a little more flexibility, a little more of a vibe, which I think is fine, but it's a mix of both. I think it's a mix of both because, just saying, I want to make more friends, to the brain, that our brain doesn't know what that means. If we can't break it down, it'll be hard to even make any actionable steps. Because what? I want to make more friends, but how? Do I think they're just going to drop on my doorstep? Or is it going to be like, I'm going to consciously go to yoga classes and talk to my neighbor. I am going to join a book club. I am going to get to know my coworkers. I'm going to ask 3 people in the next month to go on a walk. And so the range of how specific you want to get, I think that can be tailored. I'm not going to be the person to get really nitty gritty about my goals, but I don't want to fall on the other end of the spectrum, just being like, I want to make this big thing happen, not exactly sure how, like, I'll figure it out. It's like, no, we actually have to sit and take a little bit of time to do some of the preliminary work on like, what are the steps you have to take to achieve a goal like this? Starting a podcast. I needed recording material. I needed to create a theme. I needed to make a name. There were a lot of steps. And I wouldn't say I am done. Like, I'm continually creating a podcast. So yes, it is a little bit more of a flexible, ambiguous goal, but I also had to do really concrete steps to get where I am today. Another thing that can be helpful about being specific is it helps give us markers for when we have made progress, when we actually have achieved something. Even just listing the things that I've done to start a podcast, I'm like, okay, I can actually really see like this is the distinct effort and result of that effort that I've put in towards my goal of making a podcast. So it can be just helpful for motivation and for your own sense of accomplishment to be really clear on what these goals are, what they look like, and have, distinct markers for, celebration and recognition of everything that you've done. So my next thing is prioritizing your goals. So I hate to break it to you, but if you are resonating with me saying, yeah, I have a list of 8 billion goals, I'm always adding new ones, I have all this stuff I want to accomplish, I have to break something to you. Not every single one of those goals is number one priority, nor can it be, nor will you accomplish all of those goals. Yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow, but here's a little tip. Here's my little insider tip on figuring out what you actually prioritize. Look at how you're already spending your time. Actually examine what you are doing in your finite waking time each day. Because a lot of times we struggle with prioritizing because we are looking at everybody else. Social media does not help with this either. We are looking at everybody else, our friends, our peers, whoever. We're seeing what they prioritize. We're maybe thinking, oh, I should do that too, or blah, 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 blah. And then we are getting muddled what our priority is. Even though at the end of the day, you have to be prioritizing something because you're doing something with your time. But an example is like, I have one friend that's just like a workout like queen. They're always on it. They're, so good at carving out the time to do their workout classes. They feel great about it. It's super inspiring. It's really cool. And sometimes I find myself thinking like, oh God, I don't do it as much. And, maybe I should make more time. And why can't I do that? Why don't I like work out as much as she does? But then I realize that if I really came to it and I had to make a list of my priorities, working out's lower on the list for me. Right now, my work as a therapist, this podcast, seeing friends, spending time with the people I love, those are priorities, and it shows in my actions. Because when I have a little bit extra time after work, I'm working on this podcast. And on the weekends, when I have more time, I'm seeing friends. It shows with what I choose. Even though I want or maybe feel like working out should be a priority to me, it's not. It doesn't fall that highly in my life right now. And sometimes when you are able to step back and detach too, it makes me appreciate the priorities that my friends have and all the work they put into those things, into the goals that they're trying to achieve. And it can be easier to be like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. Like, I love that for you. Not for me, at least not right now. These priorities, they always switch. They go up and down. It's not a perfect ranking system. I couldn't tell you whether, seeing my friends or working on my podcast is like second or third place or whatever. I just kind of know that they're at the top. And so getting really real about that can be very liberating. So something that can be also very liberating when you look at your goals from this perspective is, now that you've kind of prioritized and you've spent some time thinking about, okay, what do I actually spend my time on? Revisit your goals list. Are there some that you don't even really care about? Like, really? For a while, I was like, I want to learn another language. I'd like to learn Italian. How cool would that be? But that's a large commitment. That's a big time commitment. That would take me a long time. And am I going to do it? Probably not. So I can kind of free myself from having that on my list. It can always come back. Just because something's off your list doesn't mean it can't come back. But giving yourself the space and freedom to be like, do I care about this, or do I just think I should? Or are there other people in my life that care about it? Or, am I just dreaming and wishing that I could be this certain type of person? Part of goal setting, I think, becomes getting really real with ourselves about like who we are and what really matters to us. And that can be uncomfortable. But I promise if you spend some time with it, you might start to feel a little bit less stretched thin. You might feel a little bit less like you are just trying to span the whole world with everything you do and everything you know about and you accomplish and you spend your time on. And when you can really bear down and focus on the things that do matter to you, that do align with your values, my guess is you probably will make a little more progress too, and hopefully feel happy with what you're accomplishing, like what you're doing. So, last thing is, do you know how you work towards goals? Do you know yourself? Do you know your values? Do you know your enneagram? Do you know your human design, your astrology? This is what I love about like talking to you guys about this, because we can go a little woo-woo with it, which is like, if you know your astrology chart, you can glean some information about how you work, what really matters to you, what you're kind of here to do. You can take a spiritual perspective too. Like, what am I trying to bring to this world? Values. You can go back and listen to my episode about, I think it was episode 8, about finding your values. Knowing your enneagram. There's little quizzes you can take online. I'm an enneagram 3, which I believe is the achiever. And that's going to look different. The things that I prioritize, what my goals are, how I work towards them is going to look different than like an enneagram 2. The helper, healer, the more you can kind of add color to who you are specifically, then that can start to also inform how you work towards your goals. Also human design, which is something we can maybe dive into later down the line in this podcast. But there's a lot of other great podcasts out there where you can learn about, like, am I a generator? Am I a projector? Do I just really like get energy and give energy based off of pursuing my passions, doing exactly what's in my wheelhouse? Or do I reflect more what people are giving to me and play off of people? Like, do I need to work in a team? Do I want to be solo? Gathering information so that you really know your specific makeup, so you can harness that and use it to your greatest advantage to really achieve the things that you want. So last little thing I'm going to add in is goals aren't everything. It's kind of the intention with asking, can I have too many? Long story short, I think that you can, and I think a lot of us do. And remembering that while I think it is so important and so valuable and so beautiful to go after the things that you want, to achieve your dreams, to always be pushing the envelope, growing, going after your goals, I think that they also aren't everything. So if we're stretching ourselves so thin and we're feeling so overwhelmed, maybe taking a step back. So that's it. That's your mini dose. Hope it went down easy. Reach out to me with any questions, any thoughts that you have. I love to even hear your guys' goals. Maybe if you really prioritize down to your top 1 or 2, reach out to me. I want to hear what you guys are working towards so we can all kind of work together. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. You can always give me a little 5-star rating. It takes 2 seconds. And follow along for more. There's plenty more to come. Lots of fun guests, and I can't wait for you to be along for all of it. So I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.